What is up, you guys? Lucius of Toe Trap Tribe here, back with another installment of that Naruto Isekai Ultimate Survival Guide. And we're running up on 400 subscribers, so I want to give you all a big thank you. And I want to make a note that that 400 subscriber special will feature a brand new Isekai series, which was teased in a community post earlier on. So please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I think you guys are really going to like that one. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. So when we last left off, we had an epic little training session, burned down a couple of forces, destroyed some plants and animals, but it's all good, baby, because we're stronger for it. And so, after that training session, we got our new team assignments. You'll be filling in for Rock Lee while he's injured after his fight with Gaara in the tuning exams. That means you're teaming up with Might Guy 1010 and Neji Hyuga, who does not like you. Can't stress that fact enough. He's not a fan of your work. In fact, he thinks you're a hack. But let's move on from Neji for a second and paint the scene a little bit. I left a little teaser towards the outro of last week's Isekai, talking about how there would be a lot of callbacks and influence being drawn from a particular series that I was a huge fan of. And that series puts a lot of emphasis on the abnormal and weird things that happen in our world. Supposedly, I'm not confirming or denying anything. You learn through a quick parse through your mission documents, this particular land is famous for its intense and year-round heat waves and painfully dry air. Researchers have also been drawn to the high amount of sulfur deposits that have been discovered only recently. The rest of your teammates busy themselves with your other elements of the mission details. 1010, for one, states her curiosity about the warriors of this land and their history, especially about what kind of weapons they used and how they fought. Neji prepares by forming a deep understanding of the culture and behaviors of the village folk, and Guy Sensei seems to be content with just the operations debrief. Speaking of the operation, it seems that the priestess of these lands, known as Hikari, has seen a lot of unrest among her people, especially in those with less means than others. She's seen humble beggars turned into violent protesters, and even a few riots have broken out in an otherwise peaceful village. At first, she even wondered if something was wrong with the water supply to change the citizens' behavior so drastically. But after many tests, nothing was discovered. She worries that if these riots are left unchecked, even though there aren't many of them, that they could turn into something a lot more dangerous and harder to control. She's requested the help of the Leaf Village to come and observe the villagers and learn what they can about this new development, since the temperament among the town has grown somewhat violent, especially towards officials and some things like law enforcement as well. Once you arrive at the land of Brimstone, Princess Hikari is there to greet you at the gates. She briefly catches you up on the events that have transpired while you were traveling towards your destination. The situation is only slightly worsened, but it's enough cause for concern that Guy Sensei makes the executive decision to get to work right away. He breaks you off into two-man units, and of course you're paired with Neji Hyuga, who is quick to remind you that his superior information gathering skills will far outclass anything that you can do. So basically, he's calling you a bench player. You brush off his comments as you try to do, and the two of you set off and wait. Eventually, night falls, and you two are staked out in a tree nearby one of the more humble sections of town, should we say. Neji activates his Byakugan and tells you to be absolutely silent so he can concentrate. Time seems to creep on for what feels like hours of doing absolutely nothing but sitting in silence, waiting for Neji to say that he's found something suspicious. The two of you were never much for conversation, but you were always curious of his abilities. Now, we all know that 1010 is probably the biggest Hyuga clan glazer of all time. So let's just say she was the first to tell you that the Byakugan is reported to give the user 360-degree vision. Now, you've seen a lot of crazy stuff since you've been dropped off into this new world, but coming from where you come from, the idea that someone could see 360 degrees is very difficult to believe, so you decide to put it to the test. You gently pick up a branch nearby, begin to raise it above your head, getting ready to throw it at Neji as you're positioned behind him. Pause. But before you can even begin to throw the stick, Neji slowly turns around, locks eyes with you. He doesn't seem very amused. You lower the stick in resignation, knowing that you're not going to get the drop on him. He turns back to what he was focusing on before, but he finally speaks. He starts talking about how he heard that you were found one day mysteriously in front of the Sand Village gates, that you had absolutely no talent for ninjutsu, genjutsu, or taijutsu, but you rapidly began to develop a feel for using chakra. He tells you frankly that he's not quite ready to trust somebody with such a shady backstory, and that you won't be half the ninja that Lee is, no matter how hard you work at it. You start to roll your eyes as he goes off on a tangent, but of course, being Neji, he sees that too. He asks you if you plan on contributing to this recon mission, or if you're just going to keep playing with sticks. Annoyed, you're quick to mention right back at him that he hasn't found anything, and he's been watching for what seems like a couple of hours. He waves you off dismissively and goes back to his recon. After a few moments, though, he notices something. You can tell he does because he shifts in his seat. He had been lying just as still as the tree you were hiding out in before. You ask him what he saw, and to your surprise, he actually tells you. It looks like there's a man carrying a large bag of rocks back to his house, which wouldn't seem too out of place, except that it's like kind of weird. But Hikari mentioned that during these riots, stones would be thrown through shop windows, causing a lot of damage. Neji seems absolutely positive that this is one of the perpetrators, and he insists that you go and confront him. You're not exactly sure about his plan, but you're not ready to show him that you're a bit nervous about going off the rails here. So you agree, and the two of you quietly head down to meet this stranger. Being that from appearances this seems to be a completely normal villager, it's absolutely no trouble for you and Neji to intercept him as he's making his way towards what you assume to be his home. You stop just outside of the door and ask him what he's been up to tonight. The man's body language drops and he seems immediately annoyed. In resignation, he tells you that his name is Mizushi, and he thanks you for asking sarcastically. He also proceeds to tell you that what he's been doing tonight isn't really any of your business. So if you would please move aside so he can go inside of his home and retire for the night, that would be great. Well, that was awkward, you think to yourself. You make a sidestep so that you're not in the path of the door anymore, but Neji doesn't move a muscle. He begins telling Mizushi that his purpose for being there is a request from the priestess herself, Hikari. So it would be in his best interest to just cooperate and tell them what they've been up to tonight. Of course, this villager sees no obligation to abide by Neji's request and tries to push past him. Of course, that annoys the little twat to no end, and Neji actually grabs the bag from the man and throws it on the ground, letting all the contents spill out. That's when the smell finally hits you. And there is nothing inside that sack but sulfur. It is absolutely loaded with the foul smell. It holds his face in disgust, and he's not normally one to make such a dramatic show of things, but he's clearly disgusted, and he questions the man why he has all this in his bag. Mizushi's clearly done talking. He bends down to collect the bag from the floor, but not before he shoves Neji out of the way roughly, with a lot more strength than you'd expect from just some random villager, especially at Mizushi's age. Having stepped out of the path of the door earlier, the man goes inside of his home and slams the door shut. Quick glance at Neji's shocked face tells you more than you need to know. Something really weird is going on in this town. It's time to meet back up with Guy Sensei and Tenten. The four of you meet up moments later. Guy and Tenten report that they also notice villagers carrying large bags of what they assume to be something heavy. They all appeared to be older men with significantly advanced strength, especially for their age, and Guy Sensei asks what you and Neji found while you were out scouting, and you're quick to report your similar findings, but Neji steps forwards and notes something about the old man's strength that he encountered, a detail he clearly didn't want to share with you, but goes like this. When the man pushed him out of the way and went down to collect his bag, he noticed a spike in his chakra. But what really startled him was that he noticed a red aura, not unlike what he encountered when he fought Naruto in the Chunin exam. And that'll do it for today's episode, guys. Sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger there. I know it was a very light episode, but you have to put butter on the toast before you put it on the pan. So with that being said, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Come back this time next week for part 10, where we will have an extra long episode to make up for the slow build-up that we got here. It's going to be very climatic, but we got to get out of this filler arc, you know? So with that being said, thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.